right now, let's take a call from our good friend on the line, Darryl Talley, who former Buffalo Bill, beloved member of the 1990 Super Bowl teams. He was a second-round pick in 1983, played 14 years in the National Football League. He's a Wall of Famer at the stadium in Orchard Park, 2 times a Pro Bowler, and a good friend of mine. Darryl, Steve Tasker, Chris Brown here in Buffalo. Thanks for coming on with us, bud.
No problem, man. How are you guys doing today? Having fun?
We are doing well.
You guys,
yeah. How are you? Hey, you doing okay
fun.
during the pandemic, Darryl? You okay during the virus that's going around? I know you're in Florida. How's it going down there?
It's going, but we're in a hot spot, and you're staying in the house. You're in the house all the time, and the only time you can go out is to go get food and come back and get back in the house. So if you don't want to get COVID, stay in the house, and that's about what we're doing.
And how, Darryl, are you keeping yourself from getting a little stir crazy? Are you climbing up the walls or?
I am climbing the walls because I'm one of those guys that can't be in that cubicle. It drives me crazy. The one good thing is doing the work for the NFL Legends community, calling guys on the phone, getting to talk to them, seeing how everybody else is making out during this pandemic and stuff like that. But that's the one thing that helps me out. And just going outside and walking, because I couldn't imagine guys being stuck in the city and not being able to get out of the house.
And you wear a mask everywhere you go, or what?
Yes, I got a mask. Oh, trust me, my wife's not letting me go out of the house without a mask. I'm in that danger zone. I'm in that danger zone. She's like, you need mask. I got disinfectant spray in the car. It's almost like when I come in the house, Janine wants to spray me down with Lysol. Yeah. After being outside for 5 minutes.
So listen, Darryl, the latest kind of thing that kind of caught the eye of a lot of people that, watch the NFL, cover the NFL, are fans of the NFL, are these player opt-outs. We know it was an option that the players had as they enter this most unusual of NFL seasons. And we've seen more than 30 players choose to opt out. My question to you is, if you can kind of put yourself in their shoes,
wow.
And you were playing now, how strongly would you consider opting out?
I would have to consider it because for the simple reason, my youngest daughter had a heart murmur and she had some other difficulties when she was young, and I wouldn't know whether or not that would have affected her. That would affect her. And me going out, having a chance of becoming infected. So, yes, I would have to seriously consider it. And I never thought I'd hear myself say that I would consider not playing. But to save my daughter's life, yes, I would take the risk out of the play. Yes, I would do that for my kids, yes. But,
and so you would probably have no problem at all with teammates opted out if they had good reason or a reason similar to yours, or even maybe no reason at all. They just said, you know what, I don't want any part of it.
And sometimes might not want any part of it. I understand that. That's up to each individual. I get that. But, it's playing Russian roulette with your life and death. I mean, life and death, think about it, man. Usually a lot of folks that get this thing, when it gets so bad, it attacks the rest of the body. And then it just shuts down. So I like life. I really love football, but I like life a little more.
So, Darryl, you look at this, and everybody's got their theories as to how things will play out. We're in the very early stages of the NFL trying to get up and running. We know they've already wiped out the preseason to eliminate that exposure risk. I think a lot of people are confident that the season will start, but with what you've seen in the own state in which you reside and how serious this can be, how do you think this NFL season plays out?
I think it starts. I think they play it. But my thing is this: you got to remember,
NFL season.
we play the most violent and most contact sport there is out there. I mean, the only thing that may be halfway as close as hockey or basketball, because we're constantly banging bodies. So we're constantly exchanging body fluids. So yeah, you got a larger chance playing football than I think a lot of the other sports. Because
When you
knocked
came
the
into
air
the
out of-
league with the Buffalo Bills, they were not a very good football team, and you kind of ran the whole rainbow of going from not very good to pretty good to really good. What was it like in the locker room preparing for a season, knowing you had zero expectations for being any good, and then at the other end of the spectrum, being a team that is maybe a favorite to go to the Super Bowl? How is that different for a team going into a season, going from the hunter to the hunted?
I never really looked at it that way, Steve. I mean, I always figured I was always being hunted. I didn't think I was the hunter. I've always thought everybody was out to get us. I thought they were trying to beat me and my 54 guys and my coaching staff. That's what I thought. I thought they were out to get us all the time. So my thing was, we're going to get them first. We're going to get them and make them pay before they make us pay. Because we know if we make them pay, they have a higher price to pay than what we would have to pay. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Darryl. I was going to try to follow that up by trying to put it a different way, because, this Bills team, they're experiencing success now. 10-6 last year. They get to the playoffs. There are high expectations for them this season, obviously. So what about the process of learning how to handle success? What can you recall from, when you guys turned the corner and how you handled success? I know there were some bumps in the road in '89, but what about that process, and what are the Bills this year facing, in terms of handling success?
Okay, in terms of handling success, you got to rely on your team leaders and your guys that are there to show guys the way forward. Guys have got to plot a way out to doing it, and they got to be willing to do it with each other, because if you really look at the team, they have a very good defense. They have an offense is now coming around, and their special teams are where they should be. Right now, they could really scare a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are scared because the only team, in my opinion, that's got a chance to beat them is Kansas City. And when you look at it, that's strictly because of the guy behind the quarterback, behind the center. As far as defenses, they rank just as high as they do. I mean, Buffalo's got a top 5 defense, top 10 defense. They've got an offense that's in the upper echelon of the league, and right now their special teams have been playing exceptionally well. So I think the Bills are set up to win. The only thing they have to do is just keep it in-house. Keep it amongst themselves, believe in each other, and trust each other. That's what I would tell them. Believe in each other and trust each other, because that was the biggest thing we did to each other. We trusted each other and we believed in each other. And as it turned out, we argued, but we argued in a good way to get everything out onto the floor so everything could be discussed. And as to the way it is today, there isn't a conversation we can't have with anybody that we played with, because we opened up all of the doors. I mean, if you didn't like what somebody did, you told them. And by having that kind of communication, it doesn't do anything but, I think it creates more harmony, because now you know where everybody stands, you know what everybody wants to do.
Sean McDermott took over as head coach, and he talked a lot about the culture that he was going to instill in the Buffalo Bills, and it, a lot of people outside of football, outside of sports, kind of poo-poo that culture, that workplace. And you've alluded to it, how special that crew was in the '90s. What do you think let's talk about the chicken and the egg. Is it culture that creates success, or because that team started to win, did that culture come about? How do you strike that balance? Where do you think it falls, and how important do you think culture is?
I think culture is very, very, very important. It's more important than a lot of things for a lot of people, because you can see people that can put it together for a year and then it blows up because they didn't have a good culture or a good base behind them. Anytime you put something together and it can last for more than 2 years, 3 years, then now you've got a culture that's going and growing. People are starting to believe and do the things that you say. So with that being said, that's what you have to do. You have to find leaders amongst your football players, leaders that you can trust and leaders that will do the right thing at the right time. and guys that are just not willing to let guys quit on them. You can't let anybody quit on you, because if you do that, then once one person quits the first time, it's easier for them to do it the second time. So as long as you don't make that a habit and let them get into that, you're good. And you're just going to have a few, like I said, you got to have a few, like down on our squad, that's just going to tell you the way it is. Whether you like it or not, here it comes, right between the eyes. Now it's up to you what you choose to do with it.
All right, fair enough. We're talking to Bills Wall of Famer Darryl Talley. Darryl, I guess we should get into one of the main reasons we're having you on in the first place, and that's because of your participation in the Captain Circle series that we're running, and you're part of the final installment of it. First of all, what was it like to be, and granted, you know, you're on a Zoom call doing this, but what was it like being amongst other, you know, leadership type role players, you know, for the Sabres and Bills respectively? What was that like, just being all in the same virtual room with them?
Very, very good. I mean, I had met Danny Gare out some. We'd met at a bunch of golf tournaments and stuff like that. So I had known who he was, and we had known each other for years. And we lived in the same city, because I lived in Buffalo when I was there. So we got to meet each other during the off seasons and stuff like that. And we met during different tournaments. I think it's a very, very good thing to get both sides together, because I think by doing that, you get to give the population of Buffalo a better, or a little more well-rounded of a atmosphere, because now you can see your professional athletes together in one place doing something together for a common cause. That's huge, I think.
Darryl, I've got one last question for you, and it's about the probability or the likelihood of NFL teams being able to keep their young players indoors during a football season so they can stay virus free. And I know that during the time that you and I played, we didn't have to stay indoors. How likely is it that these young players are going to be able to have the discipline when they've got money in their pocket for the first time, when they're famous maybe for the first time, when they're part of something really special for the first time? How difficult is it going to be to keep the lid on these guys?
That's going to be really, really hard. That's going to take some really good willpower on some young guys' parts. It's going to take Coach McDermott having his say and saying, look, guys, we know we're young. We know we're full of piss and vinegar. We all know that, because most of us have been there. And you know what that age is like. And you just have to try and get them to understand. Because it was hard at the beginning trying to get my oldest daughter to understand that, hey, this coronavirus is for real. When Alex first moved back from D.C., she didn't believe it. And I was like, no, sweetheart, you got to listen up. Look at this. And I had to make her sit down and look at what was going on. So that's what I think they got to do. Somebody's got to sit them down and say, look, here's what's going on. This is where you need to be going. And this is how we're going to get there. If Coach McDermott's got a roadmap for him, I'd say hand him a roadmap, teach a few of them how to read the map, and hang on tight.
Something tells me that if Darryl was dropped into that locker room, like fast forward and he's still a player in 2020, there's just something that tells me he's grabbing somebody by a T-shirt, a young rookie, and just saying him, grabbing him and pulling him nose to nose and say, don't mess with my money. Stay inside when you go home. Because that's what vets are thinking. Like, we want to play games. Don't mess with my money right now. Because if they cancel the season, I'm out of check. So, those are the facts.
That's messing with their money. That's messing with their money, not just their own money, everybody else's.
Yeah.
That's your livelihood. What are you doing? We have to take some
You're right.
accountability.
I think it's the real challenge that faces all the NFL is keeping the lid on it. I think they'll be okay when they're in the building, Darryl. You know how it's a different atmosphere when you're at work and everybody's kind of on the same page. It's when you don't have your teammates around you telling you to do the right thing all the time, every day, that you get in trouble, and that's that's where the NFL may run into some issues.
And that's why it helped us to go in. When we did go out, we went out in groups, so that kept us out of a lot of the fray. So you use each other to talk to each other, to keep each other from going out. Find something to do. Play cards, play bingo. And I know they ain't going to play no bingo. Play, I don't know, man. I would say get some video games in there. Something. Get the guys something to keep them occupied, because I can understand the guys being antsy.
Yeah. Well, Darryl, good luck with your bingo game. Tell Janine we said hello, and I hope you get a chance to stick your nose out the front door once in a while as well. Take care, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Not a problem. You guys take it easy now.